Greetings and salutations. This is your boy Primetime Na'eem.
And it's really lame. We in here.
We in here, and this is another episode of Agree to Disagree. And
Yeah.
today we're gonna talk about the craziness that's going on in our world today. We're gonna talk about the protests and the riots concerning the deaths of unarmed black men and women, which all started off with George Floyd, and there's Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and just recently Rayshard Brooks. Pandemonium basically broke out over these events.
Yeah.
So I just kind of want to get your thoughts on the protest, man. What do you?
Well, protest is amazing. Granted, I'm more for the peaceful version of it.
Okay.
But I don't want it to get confused where it's just like because people misconstrue what you mean when you say that, as if you're like condemning the people that are out doing the other versions of protest.
Because there was a lot of back and forth over that, and
Right.
so I'm interested, you know what I'm saying, in your thoughts about the riots. So that's the protest, and I don't think anyone has a problem with the protest per se. I mean, if you don't like black unarmed men being killed,
Facts.
you're gonna be for the protest.
Yeah.
But I think the big argument has come in with the riots, with the looting, with the burning buildings down.
Mm-hmm.
So like, where do you stand on that?
I think honestly, it's like a don't take offense. I'm clearly black, guys. So I'm with everybody here. So it's just I honestly feel like it's just like a universal tantrum where you feel obligated to take something because something was done wrong to you. I was always raised on two wrongs don't make a right. So it just doesn't. And honestly, it's pointless. Because Target's gonna have a whole new store. Walmart's are gonna have a whole new store. They're gonna have new inventory. It's pointless. So from that standpoint, all that stuff is insured. It's more or less the people that the smaller businesses that are being affected. Some are black-owned businesses that are inadvertently targeted in those riots or whatever. So it's just like I just disagree with the lack of organization. Like, I'm so for organization. Like, let's go do something. If we're going to go do it, let's do it organized and targeted. You know what I'm saying? No pun intended, target. But, like, I think that the lack of organization is cause for more separation. Because support that you would get from certain people, they jump off board when you start destroying stuff and stealing stuff. But then you can't tell somebody how to be angry.
Yeah.
You can't do something to someone and then tell them how to respond. You know what I'm saying? So
I feel like So I'm glad you brought that up because I feel like there's two sides to the writing, right? Mm-hmm. So you know what I mean. Like, if so I'm gonna put it like this. So like, if a fight, like if I'm chilling in class and someone spit on me, and then I just start swinging. And knock some tables over. You know what I'm saying? I knock some tables over. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And damage is done in the process of me just being mad. And obviously, you know what I mean? Like, that wasn't my intention. But like, things boiled over to the point where damage has been done. And like, I'm gonna be real. Like,
are you always gonna feel that way? Like, are you gonna feel like? So does it matter who spit on you? I say that to say, are we this outraged about other killings within our community? Now, I understand I'm never going to be that all lives matter, guys, because until Black Lives Matter, all lives obviously don't matter to everybody. So that's a stupid point. What I'm saying is the outrage that we showed for our fallen brother in George Floyd and the others that you mentioned earlier.
Recently, save that point. That point. I know where you're about to go with that.
Okay.
Say that point. Say
All
that point. So, all right. So first, I want to get to like, because that's gonna go down a whole rabbit hole.
Okay.
So first, I want to get to like, so if like we loot a Target, like for me, like I don't give a damn about that Target. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Target don't give a damn.
Yeah. Like they don't give a damn about us. So fuck that Target. You know what I mean? What they did to the police station. I mean, that's directly, you know what I mean, affected. I felt like they probably should have went for the police station initially.
Did it, yeah.
But, you know what I'm saying, they did, like, there was, like, National Guard and all kinds of stuff over there at the time to protect it. Okay. But, you know what I mean, like, I do feel like, you know, that's what you should be going for. Go for the police stations. If the police is your target of anger, you know what I mean, then, you know what I mean, go for that. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna lie, I did not cry a tear over a lot of those big corporations. What I did hate to see though is a lot of like mom and pop stores was also, you know what I mean,
yeah,
damaged and
a false message that people are saying is like, well, they have insurance on the building. Right. The insurance is for the building. A lot of times those smaller businesses don't have insurance on their inventory.
Right.
So stuff that's destroyed and taken out of their store is just at a loss.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I've seen a lot of people was just like, well, they could just file for insurance. And it's just like, fam, right. That's not how insurance works for every major corporation, like or every business, small business. You know what I'm saying? Like Target, sure, everything in that store is.
Yeah, because I mean they got millions and millions of dollars they're going to recover. You know what I mean? Whereas a lot of these small and pop stores, because one thing you got to understand is, all right, let's say they're insured, they still have to shut down to get everything repaired. So the whole time they're trying to get themselves back. Their store is every day the store is shut down. They are losing money.
Right.
And so that's the sad thing that I hate to see. But then you got to understand, if you look at some of the videos of these rioters.
There's a lot of white people out there.
There's a lot of white people out there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And like
we get blamed though.
Is that, and see that's the thing, and I feel like I appreciate the white support, but you gotta understand what it makes us look like, what it makes our cause looks like when you got a group of white people going in and rampaging, stealing stores. Don't get me wrong, there's black people out there too.
Facts.
Because I seen them raiding the Gucci store and taking the Jordans and shit. But I mean, like,
niggas.
If you're out there protesting,
you
see someone taking Jordans, you're like, dang, I kind of need me a pair. You know what I mean? Like,
trying to get the deal.
You're looking at your own feet and you're like, dang.
I need the deal.
And then at the same time, you just like, fuck these guys. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, like.
Up to that point, I just had a random thought on where it was like, I appreciate all of the different races that are standing up for us, in particular white people, because it's somewhat like a white and black thing.
Yeah.
So I appreciate them, but for some reason, like, do you agree with this? I had a random thought where it was just like, it felt like, all right, they're aiding us now. Mm-hmm. It's almost as like, or they're allies. They're called allies now.
Right.
It made me think about like, well, damn, like, it made me feel like how England in all of the other world wars became like an American ally after the Revolutionary War, though. Like, is that ironic? Yeah. Like, it's just like, fam, like, y'all been going against us this whole time, and now that it's like this breakout and uproar, it's just like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like people with us. I don't know. That's just like a random side thought.
I would definitely agree that there's probably just some white people out there who just like want to go out there and release some
rage, and
you know what I mean? Like I seen videos of like calm ass white people just walking around busting windows, like calmly, like, you know what I mean? Like, da 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 da.
You know what I
mean? Like, not like, man, I'm so mad and break something. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, you know what I mean? Like, I expect, like, if you break a window or something, it's like in a triggered response.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You can't break a
window. Like, you get
calmly.
hit with a rubber bullet and you're like, God damn it, and then you break some shit. You know what I'm saying? Or like, you know what I mean? Because in a lot of instances, you know, it's when the cops get aggressive, that's when the crowd fights back, and then the riot ensues.
Yeah, the cops are still antagonizing people.
Right.
It's funny. It's ironic because it's
Right.
like, fam, we're fighting against police brutality.
Yeah,
and
then
you guys are brutalizing in the moment.
Bro, that's the hilarious thing about it. I mean, it's not really funny, but like it's ironic. But that like in all this, there's like you getting more and more takes about police brutality. And I don't even know if you saw the old guy who got pushed to the ground.
Yeah, and his head immediately started linking.
Bro, I was like, dude, and then I was like, bro, do y'all not see his head linking?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
So I kept walking.
So there's definitely like a disconnect, man, where it's like, where is their like humanity at? Like where, like these cops, you're here to serve and protect, but where's the humanity at?
It's crazy because like I see stuff and it's almost as if like I'm aware of things, so I try to combat the thoughts of programming. Okay. Like because when you watch something enough, you're callous to it. But I've noticed that, you know, I'll have a conversation with somebody, and they're feeling a way. They feel a way, you know what I mean, about stuff, and I'm just like numb and callous to it, where it's just like, oh, this is just the state of the world. Right. Where this person actually, you know, damn near needs like, you know, a form of therapy, which we all need in the black community, because all this shit is traumatizing. You know what I'm saying? Like we not supposed to just be comfortable with watching people die on film. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Like it was many before George Floyd. You know what I mean? Granted, he's the catalyst for the change that's going on right now. But none of this shit is normal. Like when you see people getting stomped out in Waffle Houses or somebody getting slammed on their head at a damn party or some shit, like that's not supposed to be normal. That's not like.
And that's why to this day, like I hate when people share videos of like people fighting, and especially like black on black people just like acting in the street fighting. People like laughing and think that's funny. Like bro, you're normalizing a negative situation where it's like, dude, like we don't need to be doing this. And then like people just like they're looking at it as entertainment, and it's all good and well until somebody loses their life. You know what I mean? Because you know you watching a video of a nigga getting stomped up. Next thing you know, he's coming back and blasting on folk. You know what I mean? So that
goes to the point that you told me to stay off of earlier that we're gonna eventually get to.
We're gonna get to that in the next segment. Trust me, and y'all might know where we're going with that one. But for right now, I just want to stick to specifically the protests and the riots, and so I guess where I kind of stand with it is like I wouldn't promote like rioting and looting, but at the same time, like I'm not against it. You get what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? Like for instance, Durham had protests, and it was
we was positive.
We was positive, and we was peaceful.
Yo, out of the way they talk about us in the media, like Durham, I thought Durham was gonna be on some shit, but the fact that we are
and look at
the
Raleigh,
only major city in the state of North Carolina that had peaceful protests, I'm super proud of Durham, North Carolina. Bull City, born and raised. Like that's amazing.
And there was like a couple of reports of like broken windows, but it had nothing to do with the protest. So that was people like outside of that, who did it. So there was that stuff that happened wasn't when the protest was going on. So like all that negative stuff they try to throw towards the Durham protest way, it wasn't like that. And I'm proud of that. You know what I mean? But you know what I'm saying? Like I said, like I can't really tell people how to express their emotions, like especially like in Minnesota, where you know what I mean. Right. It was where where tensions were high. You know what I mean. Like
I'm not gonna condemn my people.
Right. Yeah. I'm not gonna do that. But
just because I disagree with your methods, don't come for me, bro. Like don't make it seem like he's a sellout, he's a coon. Like fuck out of here, bro. Like no, I'm aware, woke. Right. But a lot of you niggas is sleep deprived. You're not woke. Right. You know what I'm saying?
And see, like I feel like you know what I mean. There's a lot of things to consider, especially with that, because that stuff that happened in Atlanta. 50% of that is black-owned businesses in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying?
That's like Black Metropolis.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Y'all destroying stuff down there. Like,
you know
what
I mean?
Doing?
And shout out to Killer Mike, man. He gave a great speech on that, man. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And I'll definitely enjoy hearing his perspective. But it's like that. Like, okay, if you want to go to mess up these big corporations, to me, cool, have at it. But you know what I mean, like the mom and pop stores, the black owned stores, and that's another thing. There's several black owned businesses in downtown Durham. So like, you know what I mean. I wouldn't have been down with that at all if like some ish was to pop off. You know what I mean?
Well,
'Cause
even
it's like yo, like you mad at a certain group of people. Don't don't come for the black owned businesses because a lot of this is tied to economics.
which is our issue.
Right, which is our issue. So the last thing you want to do is destroy black-owned businesses. You know what I mean? Not that I'm advocating for like I destroy like
But to that point,
yeah.
when you go destroy a target, what
Yeah.
is accomplished? Like this is what I'm saying. The lack of
Right.
organization.
Well,
What
see,
do you receive?
so
What do you receive in turn? Because at this point,
Mhm.
you just ran in the store and y'all just
Right.
wanted to get stuff. So,
So-
it's just like what
Right.
what because I'm
Right.
I'm asking honestly from a
Gotcha.
inform me
Right.
and inform them as well. I just want to know what in turn when you go into a store and steal stuff, and just tear up shit like outside of the immediate gratification that you get from walking out with that TV or
Right.
walking out with that iPod, whatever you took out of there. What do you? What was that? How does that? How does that forward the movement?
I think so. So my counter argument is one.
That was a question. It's not an argument. I know.
Okay, yeah. I got you. But like, what I would say against that is one, I don't think there's any real such thing as an organized riot. You get what I'm saying? So I feel like at that point, it's more of a.
But that's why I disagree with riots.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not meant. I feel like riots aren't meant to be organized. I feel like things pop off, and it is, and what happens. You get what I'm saying?
It's a riot, yeah.
And what I would, you know what I'm saying? With a riot.
Yeah.
And I would say like the main positiveness about this is that it wakes people the fuck up. You get
But
what
you
I'm
can
saying?
have organized noise. Like
Here's-
Martin Luther King wasn't killed because of the marches. He was killed because he was organizing the Black Dollar.
Right.
So it's
but-
not like that's
But
to
my-
get to a solution.
okay.
I feel like the solution is for
Right.
us to organize our Black Dollar.
Right.
The Black community spends more money than some small countries' economy entirely.
So what I would say to that is, I feel like
Hold up, quick question. I'm sorry,
Okay, go ahead.
not to cut you off. When we did the marches for civil rights and the Rosa Parks thing, like
Yeah.
when we stopped riding the bus, we did that for like a year. It was like 380 something days where we
Right.
didn't ride the bus, didn't use their system.
Right.
What are we willing to sacrifice to actually get change? Like you literally have to stop supporting their businesses. You really
Right.
have to put your money
Gotcha.
to us as opposed to going back. Soon as shit
Okay.
open back up, everybody back in Walmart, everybody
Okay.
back in Target,
Okay.
everybody back spending their money, spending their Black dollars in the white companies that they were trying to destroy.
All right, cool. You know what? And I'm actually with you on that. All right, we're running out of time on this segment, but all right. So I think that's what we're going to talk about in this next segment, and then we're going to go on to the topic that you were touching on
Facts.
that we didn't get to touch on in a minute. So
Okay.
we're going to take a little break. We'll be right back with you.
Yeah.
All right, so we are back for our second segment, and we're basically discussing about the black dollar and how we can use it to our advantage. So go ahead and elaborate on what you were talking about earlier.
Well, a carryover from that what we spoke about earlier. When we boycotted the bus system, we stuck together, and we stopped riding the bus for over a year. It's like 380 plus days or something like that. And I just wonder, like, for one, what can we target in today's society where our Black dollar funnels to that will get the response that did? Because
Right.
that received change.
Right.
Martin Luther King was killed not only because of the protests, but because he was beginning to organize the Black dollar.
Right.
Once we organize the Black dollar, that is when the structures and the systems are in peril. They are in fear of what is actually going to happen next. Like going and destroying a store that is fully insured really doesn't do anything, but optically it causes pandemonium. It causes frustration and fear, which actually I don't know if it will benefit what we're really trying to do, which is trying to prove to people that we are human and we are supposed to be treated fairly. But Dave Chappelle made a good point where it's just like, once a cop gets killed, they show up in full force.
Right.
So understandably, once we watched one of our own be killed, we reacted this way. But later on, we'll get into the point of how I don't know if even that's the case.
Well, so I wanted to make a few points. So I mean, destroying some businesses. I mean, they do lose some money. You know what I mean? I mean, most of that is insured. The majority of it is going to be probably insured, but they do lose some money. You know what I mean? Some bit they
for
are
the immediate because they can't open that store.
Right. Yeah, because they can't. Yeah, because they're going to have to close down. They're gonna, they're gonna lose money for each day. They're not in operation.
Mm-hmm.
So it does affect them on that way. But it's kind of like it's not a pretty way.
So drop in the bucket.
Yeah. It's not a pretty way of making our point. But I will say, you know what I mean. It was after Martin Luther King when there was over 100 riots going around the country, where they finally went ahead and implemented the civil acts rule. So you know what I mean. I don't feel like, you know what I mean, like all these riots are for nothing. Like I personally don't feel like it's just for nothing. Like we're gaining national attention. Like we were protesting before, but now that there's riots in the streets, I've never seen so much global, you know what I mean, attention before now. I mean,
it's funny that we're speaking about this. I have a song that I mentioned this,
yeah.
And so I asked this question: is this a product of the circumstance?
Mm-hmm.
Because at this point, we all were sitting down. We all were at home.
Right.
There was no movement in the world. We all had to focus on this.
Right.
We had to see this. It was like brutally in your face. Like you had to focus on this.
Yeah.
We've seen Eric Gardner. You know what I mean? We've seen black people being choked out and die on camera.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily the thing that we saw. It's the amount of people that saw it and what we had to take our mind off of at the time. Like at any other time in life, like there's never been another time in human history where the world is shut down essentially.
Right.
So when you're sitting and you're focused, thus the reason why the protest went global. Like we had other countries a part of this protest.
And that's like crazy, man. That's
that's a
crazy.
Major step.
Yeah, that's.
But again, I don't believe in coincidences or happenstance. Like I feel like this is all according to a plan or a global agenda. The fact that the pandemic had people sitting still.
To
witness this.
Right, and I felt like it had to get to this point. You get what I'm saying? Because I mean, here you are, like you said, we've seen this before. These things have happened before, but we haven't gotten justice on none of these cases. I mean, you can go down the line. I mean, and we still might not get justice. You know what I mean? Just because
What is justice?
I want the cops to go to jail. I mean, it's great that the cops got fired. It's crazy that Breonna Taylor's murderer just got fired recently.
That's just ridiculous. And
no charges have been brought yet. So you know what I mean. So to me, like that's what I want. I want when they do these things, I want them to go to jail for it. Because when cops start going to jail, that's going to set the precedent.
They should go to jail, but understandably, a couple of things actually. They're so unionized that it's really difficult to apply the same laws to regular sentences as it is to an officer, which is an issue in itself.
Right.
And to the other point, it's almost as if police, when they're in those situations, they're more fearful than regular people are in regular situations. Mm-hmm. So it's like, if you have an officer that goes and kills someone, for them to receive justice, it's like, all right, they should go to jail as well. But if you make a mistake at your job, granted, most of these aren't mistakes. I feel like they're calculated in murders. Right. But I'm just saying, let's just try to look at it from the outside looking in. If it's just a regular job, it's a job, right? If you make a mistake on your job or I make a mistake in my job, at worst somebody gets in an accident. Somebody's information may get exposed on the internet,
right,
or something to that effect. But it's a job. You may not get fired for that. You may be reprimanded and put, dock pay or something like that.
Right.
But an officer, their mistakes and calls like revolve around lives.
Right.
Thus, it's more responsibility. Mm-hmm. But at the same token, it's like I'm just trying to understand, like, bro, like they're not getting fired. It's nothing being done to these people.
Right.
They deserve to have more responsibility, but ultimately it's just a job.
Right.
Right? So it's just like, should we change the way that we look at policing? Should policing be like this outside thing? Or should it be considered a part of the workforce? Because you can't, on one token, can say that police are part of the community and they're blue collar, they're a part of us. You know, we see these people at our basketball games. We see these people in the supermarkets. But at one time, on that hand, treat them like everybody else. But then on the other hand, they're allowed to be above the law that they're trying to uphold. Like, it doesn't make sense.
I mean, man, that's going to be that's going to be a good conversation to have. And the conversation, I think that needs to come in play. And I think that's what's the great thing that I think changes are being made. Even, God, I love the mayor of Atlanta, how quickly she acts with these situations. Whereas you gotta let these cops understand that deadly force should be the very last resort that you go to. Like it shouldn't be like, oh, they're resisting, shoot them, like
or they're getting away, shoot them.
Or they're getting away,
like,
shoot
fam,
them.
if I'm running away, like that means you need to get in better shape.
Right.
The fuck? That don't mean shoot a nigga.
Like we've seen cops chase people all the time. And what did they do? They put out an APV. They, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's crazy. There's a lot about this, especially with the Rayshard Brooks situation, which is why I'm happy that he was fired almost immediately. Is that you had his card, his car, you had his ID, you knew who he was. You know what I mean? So you had to find him. So you were going to find him later. Mm-hmm. You didn't have to kill him.
Ego came into play that though.
Right.
He beat them up. It's like ego came into play. Yeah. It's like, okay, you just got beat up. I'm about to shoot this nigga.
Yeah,
like it's not at that point. See, this is the thing. Like, this is how I think we need to look at policing differently, because ultimately these are people.
Right.
These are humans. You talking to these people, they're afraid.
Well,
they shouldn't be afraid because they have that job.
Right. Well, let me ask you this: should there be a second force of, I guess, policing that don't require guns or something? So, for instance, the cops were with the Rayshard Brooks situation. The cops were called because a man had fell asleep at the Wendy's.
At worst, it was a DUI.
Right. Do armed forces need to come in for that situation? You get what I'm saying? So it's like now the question is, like, a gun isn't necessarily necessary for that situation. And I put this on my social media. So my own story is I actually fell asleep at a drive-thru one time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It was late at night. I was tired, and I fell asleep.
Yeah, he drives drunks a lot, though.
Get out of here. So anyway, I fell asleep, and I'm gonna tell you what happened. Some guy came, knocked on my window. Hey, bro, you sleep? And I was like, oh shit. You know what I mean? I woke up, I got my food, and I went home. You know what I mean? Like, that was that. I mean, the reason I fell asleep is because, like, the drive-thru was just taking forever, and I was just sitting there. I was like, man, what the fuck? It was like 3 a.m.
Right.
And my ass fell asleep.
Fact.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you know, that happens. You know what I'm saying? Because them lines be long as hell. Mm-hmm. And dude just came, knocked on the door, and was like, hey, man, you fell asleep? You good? Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. And then I was up, I got my food, and I went home. And that was the end of it.
Facts.
You know what I mean? If cops showed up,
that situation
could have been completely different. Mm-hmm. Cops don't even need to be, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's where, I don't know if that is a police issue, a civilian issue. Why are you
because
calling
they call the cops?
Yeah, why are you calling the cops?
That can't be your first. Like, black people, we are taught to mind our business. Like, if this isn't directly threatening me, like, for one, we're afraid of police. So police you really need to remove the myth of like
Right.
you have to be on more high alert against us. I've seen far more videos of white people coming towards officers with whatever kind of stuff they have in their hands, whether it be a knife, an actual weapon, that they still don't get shot, and you guys are just like, "Hey, buddy, calm down," as opposed to us niggas
Trigger
is like
happy.
on the ground, like,
Trigger
"Yo,
happy.
please relax."
Right.
Bah, bah, bah,
We,
bah,
we
bah.
begging you not.
You know what I'm saying?
And it's still like.
I feel like it's like a bully mentality. Whereas if you see somebody that is inferior to you, or you know how they say like if it's a dog, it's just like, man, don't act scared. It's like he can sense your fear. Even though I don't know if there's any science behind that. Y'all all have heard people that got crazy dogs and they done said some shit like that. Like, he can sense your fear. Chill, bro. Just relax.
Right.
So it's almost as if officers sense our fear and are more aggressive towards us. So it's like the fact that we have a right to be afraid of these niggas and they still killing us. It's like police have to be held to a higher standard than any other job in the world. I mean, any other job that is central to a local business. Like, there's no other job that has more responsibility in a local area than police.
And I feel like, when you have a life and death over somebody, I mean, there just needs to be better training and, strict laws. Like, for instance, I work in a position where I deal with sensitive information. If sensitive information gets leaked out, I'm getting fired regardless. You know what I mean? Like, there's no, hey, what happened? They're not going to come to me like, don't worry, man, we got your back on this. We're going to make sure you're all right. They're like, man, you let some sensitive information go. We could get sued for this. We're going to lose a lot of money for this. You know what I'm saying? And I'm out of there. It's same thing. It should be the same thing with cops. And I want to kind of switch pivots with you because you made an interesting point about, and we only got a little bit time left on this segment. You made an interesting point about using the black dollar or withholding our money.
Funneling it to ourselves,
right.
Basically.
So, like, what would that look like? Like, if you were, would it be something similar to, like, again, boycotting the bus system, or would it be something bigger than that? Like, who do we target? Like,
well, I think the process of creating those businesses may not already be in place because at best, the only thing that I know that is completely black owned personally is like a restaurant or some shit like that.
Right.
Maybe I'm not sure. What is it? Farmers and Mutual or something like that. Those banks, Farmer Market, like whatever those banks is called.
Right.
Aren't those black owned banks? Like black owned banks, I think those serve the community as well. I'm sorry if I'm mess up the name of that or whatever, but nonetheless, it's just like I don't know if we have structures in place currently that are able to change. So that's where I think that the problem with some of our black elites, they don't necessarily put their dollars where they could be to actually influence change within the community.
And you went directly where I wanted you to go on that, because I don't know, have you ever seen Killer Mike's Netflix special?
No.
Okay. God, what was the name of that thing? But anyway, basically, he takes a day. Trigger warning.
Okay.
Trigger warning with Killer Mike. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's very thought provoking. So basically, he takes. I can't remember if it was like a few days or like a week that he decided he is not going to spend his money in any white establishments. But the problem that he ran into is that there's not enough black structure, kind of what you're referring to almost, sustain, to live, you know what I mean? And he was in Atlanta, where it's like,
I was about to say, like, I thought that was about to, I thought you was about to turn that and it was going to go the other way, and it went well. I was going to be like, that's because he's in Atlanta. But the fact that he's in black metropolis and he isn't able to find enough black businesses to sustain everyday living, that's a problem.
Yeah, and see that was the thing. So he couldn't take the bus anywhere. He didn't drive his car because he couldn't get gas. He was able to find he could go to black owned, but he went deep with it. So he wasn't just not doing, because there was black owned stores, but he wanted the products that he bought within the stores to be black owned as well. He went deep with it.
Okay.
So I don't know if we have to go that deep with it as well. So he was buying from his fruits and vegetables were from black owned farmers and things of that. Reason I bring that up is that we need more of that, more of our own, like everything, our own water. You know what I mean? You saw what happened with Aunt Jemima. We need our own pancakes. You
niggas just realized that was racist. It's hilarious to me. Like, that's ridiculous, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Aunt Jemima.
Right. I mean, we need black owned everything, and that's why I hate when everyone, like black people, when they say, "Oh, I want to start a business," it's always clothing store or restaurant. Right. Like, we got to think deeper than that. You know what I mean? Like carpentry, TVs, everything. We need to get a piece of everything because that's how these white people are making it to the top. Like, you see some white people and they'll be rich off of something you wouldn't even thought of. You know what I'm saying? But like, I own a lumber business, right? Like, how many people say like, "Oh, I'm gonna start a lumber business"? You get what I'm saying?
But the quality is the issue. Like, this is like the conversation that the famous House way. Right. You know what I mean? Sway and Kanye. Right. Where the crux of that argument was, fam, like, because Sway was like, "Yeah, I started my own business. I did this, that, and the third. I started my own clothing business." Right. Kanye is like, it wasn't no Ralph though. Right. So the quality of the production has to be what it is. Like, it has to be pristine. Like, it can't be like, I shouldn't have to come support you as a black business just because you're a black business. Right. I want to go to you and get the same quality. Granted, I understand that takes time to build up, but that's the problem. Right. Like, that's the thing. Like, where it's just like, a lot of these rich and wealthy people within our community, they're silenced because it's as if their money would stop somehow. They're not able to influence change and impact the way that they really want to or the way that they need to, which is offsetting and a whole nother discussion that I guess we'll get into at another. Man, I
think that should be probably our next podcast, is just getting into that. Okay. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. I apologize. That was getting really interesting, man. Hey. And that's like a whole other rabbit hole that we can get into. We got one more segment after this, and we'll be right back. So now for our third and final segment. For this segment, we're going to talk about the police brutality and the riots and how that all relates to black people in general, and in particular how black on black crime affects these situations. So I know you were kind of going there as far as with the outrage, and would we have that same energy? You know what I mean? If it was, well,
we clearly don't. But
if it was a black on black murder, so go ahead and just kind of like just elaborate.
Well, I mean,
on,
I understand
where you're coming from on that.
I understand that we're different. You know what I'm saying? And people react to different people in different ways. Like, if your boss yells at you versus a sibling yells at you, you're going to treat them differently. So the fact is that in the majority of those situations, the black person is treated as the lesser. So it's just like, we see ourselves as lesser. We don't value ourselves as much, which is unfortunate. But at the same time, it's like, okay, you can't take that out of context and say that I am agreeing that police brutality is okay. I'm just saying that you can't see one without seeing the other. Like I did a song where I said 62 black victims, that's 62 black killings from 62 black killers. Do Black Lives Matter? Because at this point, I just don't get us. Blood from your brother screams out from the ground like, man, don't y'all miss us? Police brutality is but a fraction of our casualties. Now, that don't make them right to hunt us down at all times of the night like we some type of wilder beast. I really think it all should cease. But I wonder what we would say if we all could speak, because we're no monolith. For God's sakes, we can't agree that God exists. Now, that is a major topic where it's just like, to agree, like, who's the leaders? Like, who is when we're doing all this donating, where's the money going? Like when we have all these companies coming out saying we're donating $100 million or X amount of $1 million to black programs and blah 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 blah. I feel like we need to tell that. We need to go into the details of what are you talking about? Who are you talking to? Because I've seen state funded projects that just evaporate. The money ends up elsewhere and it's evaporated. Like
Right.
you can go around your city and see a road that leads to nowhere.
Right.
That's because of funding went away. You know what I mean? Funding was for this project, but after the project lost traction amongst the people, the funding went elsewhere. So there are roads to nowhere. So from that standpoint, or that using that analogy, we have all these programs and funds that are going to things. We need to figure out a way to tell every story that is attached to every dollar that is supposedly going to a black organization. Who are the leaders? What is it actually doing? We need to be able to track this stuff after it's not trending. Because once the country opens back up and we're able to be distracted like we always are, then a lot of people might not even really think about this anymore, which is the problem and the blessing and the curse in the fact that we had the pandemic in the first place. Because the fact that a black man was killed while everybody was sitting home and able to watch it and wasn't able to be distracted by sports or music or anything else at the time, like even artists that typically wouldn't make that kind of music you have to talk about this right now. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't come out with a twerk record right now. Like the hose is in the house. You know what I'm saying? It ain't nowhere to twerk. You know what I mean? We got to think about what's actually happening. So to that point, it's just like organization has been the theme of everything I've been saying right now. We have to target a goal. Like what are we organizing towards? Like what are we rioting for? I understand we're doing it to gain awareness. All right, we have awareness now. What's next? Like who are the leaders? Who leads Black Lives Matter? Like who? What are we doing?
I think that's an important question, and like I love what Black Lives Matter is doing, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm not all the way there with their representation. It's not always there for Black Lives Matter, but I think where the leaders is a good point that you're making is because the average person isn't gonna, like you said, track down the dollars, make sure that the money is going to where it needs to go. The people who do that are the politicians. You know what I mean? The people on the city council. They're gonna make sure that the money goes where it wants to go. And it's just gonna sound like a tired story, but you need to vote. You know what I'm saying? And that's what. And I'm not even talking about presidential. All right, Republican, Democrat. To me, it's all the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. To me, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's some differences. I'm not,
in the particular people, but what the party stand for.
Right. As far as the impact in the black community itself, to me, it's all the same. You know what I'm saying? So when I talk about voting, I'm talking about your local elections, and I think there's a vote coming up in North Carolina next week. You know what I mean? So it's like we gotta select the right mayors, the right councilmen. You know, so we can. So with the people, we can get people that we trust. You know, to stand up for us because like we can only do so much as people, but we have to have, like you said, a representative who's gonna speak for us. And who's gonna say, hey, look, hey guys, that money that you guys donated, it's going here.
They lied to us.
Right. Like you need to step out and say, hey, look, you voted for me, so I'm gonna come. I got your back. These guys, I told them to take the money, and they ain't do it. You know what I mean? So we got to have somebody who is a vocal leader, who is on the boards, deciding where these money goes, and then if it doesn't happen, saying, hey, look, call a meeting, get the people involved, and say, hey, look, guys, I voted for the money to go to our education system and to our welfare programs. Instead, it went to the police. You know what I mean? We need those people You know what I mean?
But the
In
organizations,
place.
like, okay, this is about to go into a conspiracy theory
Okay.
or some shit. But like, if you think about it from that perspective, those people don't win all the time, especially not
Right.
major. Like, look
Right.
at Bernie. Like, Bernie was too for the people. He was
Right.
too much for the people. It was no way he was going to possibly
Right.
win the Democratic vote, which is why, sidebar, I think he should have went in and started a third party. But I say that to say that when you limit the choices between Democrat and Republicans, black people have just been blindly voting for
Right,
Democrats
right.
for years for no reason, like with
Right.
no results. Like, why? Like,
Right.
why do they deserve our vote just unanimously?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you got Biden walking around able to say that
Right.
if you can't decide who you gonna vote for between me or Trump,
Right.
then you ain't black.
Right.
Bro, like, who gives you the right to say some stuff like that?
Right.
Granted, it was said in jest, but you feel that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, all right, from that standpoint, I believe that when you say go vote, when it's an organized structure from top to bottom, they don't have no say. They're just figureheads. Granted, I'm not even about to go into the conspiracies that I actually believe and are pretty much valid based on what people are able to do in the mainstream.
Right.
You can prove and see the fact that these people that we put in office really don't have much say. They're answering to other people.
Well, here's what I would say to that.
But votes matter. I don't
Right.
want to get that confused.
Right. Like, no, yeah, because here's what I would say to that. I feel like it's not impossible because you have places like Atlanta where
But you just have to make it trendy. You have to make it okay for those people that are in powers to be like, okay, well, we're not going to lose money by empowering black people this way.
Right.
So this is the change that we're actually doing right now. But the people at the top,
Oh,
they
yeah,
have to
money
agree.
has to definitely be, a part of it. You know what I mean? And I mean, Atlanta is a booming city. And this is what I would say, man. Like, if you're a black person and you're worried about racial discrimination, like, I know like segregation was a big thing, but I feel like coming together is a big thing, because if you stay in the city, you know what I mean, like Atlanta, where there's tons of black people, that means black people are going to move the vote, and that's how you're going to get the right people, in office. You know what I mean? If you're in a city where you're 20% of the population, black people are 20% of the black, you know what I mean? You might not have the people who get elected might not be in favor of the black community, because who's the majority community there, right?
Well, I mean, but
so
you
I feel
have
like
gerrymandering that like blocks a lot of the black vote as well.
Yeah.
Like, so they'll combine a whole black community, whereas, like, for example, in Durham, if you're familiar with Durham, they would combine the entirety of the West End or the South Side and make it one district.
Right.
Whereas you may be able to go. Now, this is just an example of what
Right.
actually happens with gerrymandering. Not saying that it is
Right.
actually going on currently in our city, but I'm saying, like, just to give a visual example for the people that are from the area. Like, if you make the whole South Side one district, right? That one district is predominantly black, but then you go to Hope Valley, and you section it off by each neighborhood. Each neighborhood counts as a district.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the kind of stuff that they do with gerrymandering, where they limit the impact of even the voters that we do have. You know what I mean? The people that are willing to even go out and vote.
Right.
You're limiting the impact that they can have because they're limited. They're tied to one district. Whereas in another predominantly white neighborhood, they have much more power because, like, damn near every 4 streets is considered a new district. We just cut the line off right here, across the street, across this little highway. Right. That's a whole nother district, but it's really the same neighborhood.
Right. And see that's what I'm saying. We have to have. I feel like that goes back though to voting, because there's people who control that, right? You know what I'm saying? Who controls the districts and how everything is set up. There's, like, you know what I mean? Because otherwise it's like, what do? You know what I mean? So we have to have people who are, like, who are actively combating gerrymandering. You know what I mean? And trying to make sure that our votes matter and it's getting the right people involved. And
right.
And that's what I'm saying. That goes back to just, like, getting the right councilmen in place that are gonna fight for our beliefs. And it's like, and people like you got to go out there, man. A lot of times, some of these people who are running, they're out there at the polls. You know what I mean? So you will have a chance if you don't have time to go downtown and attend the meetings. Sometimes these guys are at the polls, telling you what their stance is about,
Yeah.
and you'll get to ask them questions like, hey, what do you feel about this, and what do you feel about that?
But even then, when we go to the now, I'm not
Right.
trying to just be
Right.
a pessimist because normally I'm an optimistic.
Right.
But with this topic, it just blows me because it's like they have so much voter suppression, whereas it's like I said, you have so many people that are funneled into this one district, whereas you'll go to another district and you in and out of there. But you go to the ones where the black vote is dominant,
Right.
and the line is literally down the block.
Well,
Who about to stand in that joint, bro? I'm not about to wait for this to
So
vote.
my question is,
Make it easier.
All right. So my question is, then what is the answer? What do you do against that? You get what I'm saying?
I don't know. That's the question. I mean, this is the thing.
Right.
All right, so I hate people that come up with problems and not solutions.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Because you just unleashed a whole load of problems, right?
But I mean,
with no answer.
but this is what I'm saying. Okay, well, you being a
Right.
tech guy, I
Right.
think there's a way that they can code and create a process where we can vote digitally. I
Right.
shouldn't have to leave my house to go vote.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, why do I have to go wait in this long, stupid line? You're making it harder for me to vote.
Right.
Like, it should be a very simple and
Right.
easy thing. Like, I vote for this person, boop, boop, boop.
Right.
We out of here.
But, man, and to me, like, I feel like in the meantime, man, we just gotta persevere. You push through.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know what
for
I mean?
sure.
Because it's like,
That's what black
if,
people
if
do.
if you got to, and yeah, that's exactly what we do. So if we got to, we got to push through.
Don't let them take away
And
your
we,
smile, y'all. That's what we do.
And we got if we got to wait in line for an hour to get a vote in, then you know what I mean. That's what we do. Luckily in Durham, I've never had that experience. You know what I mean.
Where your district at? You don't have to go up by Lowe's Grove?
Man, my joint wasn't that long. It was. I'm telling
That
you,
shit-
it was
that
like
shit was
15 minutes max. I don't know what time you go. I guess it depends on the time of day.
Facts.
Some people say it was long. Some people say it wasn't. It depends
Yeah.
on the time of day you go.
Okay.
But I haven't had the experience that. I've always got my vote in, so
Mhm.
it wasn't a problem. But I feel like it depends. It depends on where you at, man, and and it depends on the city. You know what I mean. So I personally for our city, I feel like we do all right. You know what I mean. We got a black woman as our police chief. You know what I mean. And I feel like the representation on our council represents the representation in Durham. I believe we're like 40-something% black in Durham.
Okay.
And if you look, there's diversity in our city. So I feel like it does work to some degree. You know
Right.
what I mean? I mean, we gotta. I mean, just to say, like, not all black people are, got our backs, but you know what I mean.
Don't point at me when you say niggas don't got our back.
No, I didn't point at you. But I'm just, you know what I mean.
They'll
Like,
take that and be like, oh.
right. But I just wanted to kind of like point out, you know what I mean. Like, it should reflect the city. Real quick, we're running low, but I kind of wanted to touch on, man, is and we only got a little bit of time, but for us to be touching on this, but you know what I mean. Like, I just want to touch on like, what are your thoughts, man, when like people are talking about these crimes and the first point that they go to is black on black crime. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm not saying neither is it irrelevant,
Right.
but it's just the fact that you can't ignore the fact that this happens within our own community. The
Right.
fact that it was a white cop that did it. Ultimately, like, all right, my moral compass is led by Christ. This is my theme.
Okay.
This is how I believe, right?
Mhm.
So the fact that I see things, no sin is different.
Right.
Like the dude that killed George Floyd, if he repents, he can go to heaven.
Right.
A lot of people don't believe that or don't want to believe that. But then what if you think about all the sins that you've committed in your lifetime?
Mm-hmm.
And if God judged you like a human,
Right.
if God looked at you and acted like a human, like he was just like, all right, well, nigga, I seen you do this and it's over for you. You never go to heaven because of what you've done. What I'm saying is these communities, or our communities rather, the way that we see violence amongst each other isn't the same that we see violence that is done to us from another community. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make as much sense to say that, like, okay, black on black violence is like, all right, yeah, we need to focus on that too. But the fact that this police officer did it, it makes it way worse. Granted, he has training. He's not supposed to do this.
Mm-hmm.
He has way more responsibility than Ray Rand them that shot up JoJo and them. Whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, the fact that any of these people killed each other, that's not even a thing, though. This is the problem. Like, this is the problem. Like, the fact that that's not even like a topic. Like, this would have never been. This would have never been a national issue if it wasn't a white officer and a black guy. Like, the fact that just a couple weeks later in Chicago there was like it was like 18 murders. It was like 18 murders in one weekend. The majority of which were done by black killers. So it's just like, bro, like, y'all have to be more nuanced and complex. You can't tell me the fact that I'm talking about this issue means that I'm saying police brutality is okay. That's not me. Like, you're not speaking, and I'm not speaking for everybody. I already said we're no monolith. For God's sakes, we can't even agree that God exists. What I say by that is just like, fam, everybody has their own opinion on things. We need to figure out a way to come together on a common goal and focus on that. All right, police brutality is a bad thing. We need to figure out how to change the police structure. Cool. At the same token, we need to change our inner cities and the way that we interact with each other. I shouldn't be able to see you and see somebody that I feel is threatened. You know what I mean? Like, just as black people, like, if you see a bunch of niggas in your neighborhood, it's just like, fam, like, what y'all doing here?
Right.
Like, I pay too much money to, you know what I mean? Right. Like, this ain't where I came from. I used to live in the Mac or in the PT. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't, and that's crazy, but that's a part of the programming where I was speaking about earlier, where I've grown callous, and I even see my own people as threats. You know what I mean? And it's not supposed to be like that. Right. I'm saying I'm just as much of a problem as anybody else. But the problem with the black community is we often have like this high and mighty thing where it's just like, you guys are wrong. You feel me?
Yeah. You
guys are wrong. We're wrong too.
All right.
It's just like, I don't want that to be confused as some sort of all lives matters take. You know what I'm saying? It's more or less just like saying that, hey guys, we have accountability and responsibility to in our own community to show care. You know what I mean? We have to care about ourselves so the rest of the world can care about us. Even if they don't ever care about us, we have to show more care about ourselves than we do currently. We have to be just as outraged when the police kills an unarmed black man as we are as when Ray Ray shoots up Pookie and them. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's, we don't have to be those kind of people where it's just like, oh, okay, whatever, that was justified because they had whatever issue from back in the day or some stupid shit. Like, we have to be more accountable within our own community. This is all I'm saying. Like, I just don't think that we are as blameless in our own demises as perception would allow. You know, granted, these other things and these other officers in different positions, they have much more responsibility than a random citizen that may shoot someone. Facts. We have to address that as well. But I think that there should be an uproar as much as anybody dying. Like, nobody should lose their lives. You know what I mean?
So I think that the difference between those two is, like, with your example of, like, if Ray Ray shoots Buki, then, like, Ray Ray's gonna go to jail and probably for a long ass time. Whereas, like, these cops, they're shooting people and they're getting, like, paid leave. Or if they do get fired, they go and work at another precinct, mm-hmm. and life continues like nothing happened. You get what I'm saying? So I I feel what you're saying on that. I respect that. You know what I mean? And everything you said is completely right. The only thing is like, it's like we hear that, but I feel like the outrage is there. You know what I mean? But I think that falls in line with just crime period. Crime is happening, you know what I mean, in our community, in white people's community, with white on white crime, with Hispanic on Hispanic crime, with, you know what I mean, with Asian on Asian crime. Like, I feel like that goes on throughout the world, and it's a tragedy every time it happens. The thing with the police is that, like, you're doing a job, and these, like, you're getting paid to protect us, and instead you're killing us. So I think that's one dynamic. And then it's like the second dynamic is that when you talk about black on black crime as it relates to these situations, like you got to understand that crime and poverty also is directly related. You know
Of
what I mean?
course. Yeah,
So,
crime. I mean, poverty in
right,
any situation.
right,
Trailer parks,
right,
wherever
right,
there's poverty, there is crime
right.
at a higher rate. Understandably. What I'm
So,
saying. Oh,
yeah,
I'm
no,
sorry.
no,
Go ahead.
no. All right. So all right. So I just want to say like, all right. So like, because like the stats that I hear people put at me is like, we make up 13% of the population, but we make up like 40 something percent of the murders or something in America or
That's just a conviction rate. That doesn't
yeah,
mean that less
right.
people are being murdered by other races.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of that crap is bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Because we see black people getting convicted for crimes they don't commit all the freaking time. You know what I mean? If you
Mm-hmm.
don't believe me, just check out the Central Park Five or many other cases that you can point to
Right.
where people went to jail and they were wrongly convicted. You know
Right.
what I mean? So it's just like so many cases where it inflates our numbers, and then I mean you're seeing more and more evidence about cops planting evidence on black people,
Mm-hmm.
and then and that's the thing. It's like, all right, you want to talk about like
I don't
there's
think that black people are innately more criminal than any other
and
race.
see,
Obviously,
right,
but
and
that's the
see,
perception.
right, and that's the thing I want to eliminate. You know what I mean? Where I was like, yo, like when we talk black on black crime, we got to be really careful about what we talk about
But
because
to that
right,
point, when you bring up the crimes in the other community, you're basically using the same argument as all lives matters for crime. So
right,
essentially, you're saying all crime matters. But we're talking about us. So I
right,
don't really necessarily care about other communities in this moment.
right, right,
So
right,
what I'm saying is, when I'm talking about the crime in our community, I
right,
can only speak for us.
right,
And I know for a fact that throughout our culture,
right,
shooting a nigga matters.
right,
Blowing a nigga, like, you don't hear country songs about a nigga pulling up. I pulled up with the rifle and shot Billy
yes,
Bob.
yes,
I got the
right.
40 on me. I let him go. You
Well,
know what I mean? Like, that's
well,
what we talk about.
well, I mean, well, as you know, music is a reflection of the lives we live in. So, to me,
That's
why
even worse
I
because it's a
right,
reality.
right, no, it is a reality. And so here's the thing: how do we even get to that point? You know what I'm saying? So, like, yeah, to your point where it's like you're trying to make it where not you, but people try to make it seem like black people are innately more violent than other races. Like my argument is, you put any race
And poverty, yeah.
in a poverty situation, right? And you give them a poor education system,
Mm-hmm.
and then on top of that, you pump drugs into the community
And guns.
and guns,
Most guns don't say made in
right?
America.
And remember when the crack epidemic and all this stuff was going on, this was back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, where there wasn't a lot of Frank Lucases. Like, let's be real. How were the drugs getting there, right? So so you got to understand that point. And so and then, all right, let's say as a black person, you don't take the bait. And what they do, they find any kind of petty reason to throw you in jail anyway.
Right.
So now you're taking the black fathers out the home, all
Yeah.
right? So you're breaking up the family dynamic.
Yep.
You're pumping drugs. You have a poor education system. So, I mean, it's like people have to, there's no way for them to learn how to really better themselves, you know what I mean? Unless you're just like really dedicated and willing to put in the work. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, as far as, you know what I mean? Like, I hear the whole black on black crime thing, and I'm not making excuses for black people committing crimes. Absolutely not. But I'm saying if you put any race in that situation,
Facts.
you know what I mean.
But to that point,
You're it's gonna produce some negative results. And to me, like, you know what I mean. That's why I feel like black people are the greatest. You know what I'm saying? Like,
because of perseverance.
because our despite all this shit, because people are like, oh, if racism exists, how is this black person a millionaire and this black person a million? It just shows our perseverance, our greatness, our determination, our willing not to lay down. And so that's why it's like, you know, like I feel people on the black on black crime, but like I feel like Not right now. You know what I'm saying?
I
feel like that's a continuous conversation. You get what I'm saying? That's not like someone gets shot and then in a moment, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like that because it's a poverty situation, and that goes. I feel like that goes back to the economics and trying to get our people in a better situation. Because I feel like as we get in a better economic situation, you'll start to see those numbers go down.
Of course, yeah, I agree. Like, again, poverty, crime follows poverty, right? So, and lack of opportunity in education. So I agree with that. Um, I'm just saying that at some point we have to come out of the victim mentality.
Right.
It can't. We can't forever be this because in this moment right now we're seeing what we do when we want to change things. This is an active will of the people, you know. This isn't something that white people gave us. The change that we're creating right now.
Right.
This isn't something that they willingly gave.
Right.
So this is proof that victim mentality and the programming in our psyches as people as just, you know, being lesser and feeling like, oh, we just have to deal with this stuff because we're black. And it's just like, nah, we're proving that right now.
All right.
So in certain stances, it's like, all right, we can't continue to point to other communities for our shortcomings. Indian people ain't did nothing to us.
Right.
Asian people ain't did nothing to us.
Right.
Why are they coming into our communities, opening up businesses?
Right.
Why are they coming into our community, making more money off our community than we are? You know what I'm saying? Like, black women, like, you know, one of the first black millionaires was Madam C.J. Walker. She gave you the blueprint decades ago.
Right.
Like, what are we doing? Why do we let the Asian people take over the black hair market? Why is the black hair system ran by majority Asians or another race? Like, you rarely see a black owned beauty supply store. That's just a fact. I don't know how it is around the world, so I don't even know statistics on that. But I've never seen a black.
That's true. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Ever. So it's just like it's always Asians, like literally. So it's just like how did they corner that market? And we have to reverse the victim mentality where it's just like, fam, like, ah, man, there's nothing we could do. Like, we're proving that right now, guys. Like, we're proving that with the protests, with the marches, everything that we're doing right now. We're proving that we have the ability to change the mindset of a people, like, and we have the ability to infect change even within other races because they're joining us. They see that the problem is what it is. And I'm not saying that black on black violence is any more important than an officer, but at the same token, I'm not saying that it's less. That's the difference. I'm not saying just because this person has more responsibility to his badge to do his job that way, that is any more or less valued as a travesty within our community than anything else. So it's like, okay, stuff like that gets labeled as self-hate. Whereas like if I see a black person, it's like, bro, like I ain't never really had no beef with no white person.
Right.
Like on a consistent basis.
Right.
Like I don't go out just being like, all right, bro, I got smoked with this dude.
Right.
Like I know him.
Right.
And he looks like me.
Right.
You know what I mean? White people is just like, whatever, like, I deal with that when it comes.
Right. See, see, one thing I want to touch on though, that, you know, with the situation with crime, this whole thing starts with the system. Like everything is really systematic. You know what I mean? And I know, you know, like you mentioned, like, hey, we shouldn't play the victim, but at the same time, we are victims. Why is it
For
that?
how long? That's why
until we change the system, because we gotta change the system, because look, why is it when the crack epidemic came in, they locked us all up?
That's a fact. And then
with the opioids, what is it? We got to get them help, right? We got to get these people help. You know what I mean? So like I feel like we gotta change the system, and I feel like
but you have to be
we haven't broken through this through the system yet. You know what I mean?
You have to be nuanced though. You can't say that one of those things outweighs the other. You can't say that because I believe this that I disagree with that.
Right.
Because I perfectly very well agree with what you just said.
Right.
Like that's a point that
Right,
we've made
like-
before. So it's not foreign language.
Right.
It's more or less that I'm saying that we have to do that in addition to,
Right.
like, life isn't fair for
Right,
us,
right, right.
obviously.
Well, that's another thing. I've always realized that as a black man, that you're gonna have to work twice as hard to get to the same place as your
But
white
why
counterparts.
is that? Why is that though? Because our black leaders and the people that are making millions off of black culture, they're not supporting black culture and coming back and giving those jobs. So it's just like, if black people and black businesses and black artists, black movie makers, black celebrities, if they all just funnel their money back to us,
Right.
then we would have a much better structure to springboard the next generation. But at this point, we got Tyler Perry,
Right.
Oprah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they don't even really like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, like, Tyler Perry is like a different breed from Oprah as far as what he's done
Gotcha.
within the black community. Oprah is more like Obama, like optics.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they're optically appealing. But as far as tangible
Right.
things, it's like, what have you done?
You know, and I think and like even now, just in this moment, I'm starting to hear what you're saying, where it's like, okay, we still have this ceiling above us, or whatever metaphor you want to use, that's trying to push us down. But to your point, we've broken down those barriers before, and you know, despite it all, sadly, the true reality is that's just what we have to continue to keep on doing to get to where we need to get to.
Well, hold
and
on.
also,
I wouldn't want to say that we have to be so miraculous. We don't have to be as miraculous as a Michael Jordan to make it.
hold on. Yeah, nah, hold on.
You
Let me finish.
shouldn't have to be
Let me finish my point though. But also, what I was gonna say is that there are people, you know, the Oprahs, the Tyler Perrys, the Michael Jordan, who could probably, to your point, be doing more for our community.
Probably.
You know what I'm saying? Like, like, you know what I mean? Like, they could probably be, you know, do a little bit more to get us out of these situations. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I love what I see out of LeBron James building the school. I'm not even a LeBron James fan, but like to see him, like, you know, building schools to educate our young black youth, that shit is beautiful. We need more of that, you know, because honestly, man, I think it all starts from the education system, because what happens is with the violence and the shootings is these people, they're so short-sighted, and the way their world is constructed around them, they think that is their only way out is drugs and gangbanging, like, you know what I mean, like,
Or a jump shot, or a rap.
right, or a jump shot, you know what I mean.
We're so limited. That goes back to what we was talking about earlier,
Right.
where it's just like the black businesses.
Right.
We only got restaurants and shit. Like, why
restaurants
we
and clothing stores, you know what I mean.
Why
There's
we don't
so
got
much
lumber
more.
companies? Why we don't got
Right.
our own version of a black Walmart? Or,
Like, right, exactly. We need more lawyers, doctors, all that stuff, and we just need to tackle all these different avenues. And you know what I mean. I think, you know, I think we can get somewhere, man. It's been a pretty good conversation, man. Pretty
dope. It could go on forever.
Yeah, pretty good segment, man. Yeah, we could go more. I'm sure you have more to say. But
hey guys, I support us.
Right.
Hey, please don't get anything that I've said thus far.
This is agree to disagree, baby. We got all kind of different opinions, and I think the important thing is, man, that like, and I've said this before on my social media platforms. Black people, we're not one brain. We all have different viewpoints, and so we're gonna disagree. But I think ultimately, like, we all want the same goal, and as long as we're all fighting for the same goal, man, I think that's what's important, man. You have any last words, or where they can follow you, or?
Oh yeah, the gram, ItsReallyLane. Hit me up. New music coming soon. Show love only, man. Self-care. Be loving. You know, love first.
All right. Yep. And you know, you can follow your boy Primetime Na'eem at Primetime_Na'eem. Follow our YouTube channel. Agree. The number 2, disagree. Agree to disagree. So this has been another episode. Thank you guys for watching and listening.